Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. Listen, I'm your host, Melvin Lars, and as you guys know, we have a fantastic guest with us this evening in the person of Dr. Chetachi. I'm sorry. Wait, you know what, Dr. Chetachi? Am I pronouncing your name correctly when I say Igwu? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah,
Okay.
Chetachi Egwu.
Chetachi Egwu.
Yeah.
Yes. Listen, and I have to put the
Yep.
alphabets behind the name. Dr. Chetachi Egwu, PhD. Guys, that's who we'll be speaking with this evening. I often use the term Renaissance because I've been very blessed to speak with a lot of people that do so many things. And so there are Renaissance people out there, but Dr. Tachi epitomizes the title Renaissance. Let me tell you why. She is a Nigerian American media communication professor, writer, producer, journalist, filmmaker, dance choreographer, artist, and actor. I know there are other titles, but she's modest and she didn't want to put any more on there. And we will talk about some more titles a little later. She earned a BA in communication from the University of Buffalo. And I won't tell the year. I don't know if she want me to tell that or not. She then moved to Howard University in Washington.
Who cares? I don't care.
And she earned that a BA in communication from the University of Buffalo in 1996. Then she moved on to Howard University in Washington, D.C., where she completed a master's and a PhD in mass communication. Dr. Egwu has served as a faculty member in the communication department at Morgan State University, the George Washington University, and Nova Southeastern University. She is currently communication faculty at the University of Maryland University College. Her work has been featured in academic journals, newspapers, and online publications such as The Grill, and is contributor media producer for the Burton Wire. Her creative work, however, reaches beyond writing. Dr. Egwu is also a dance choreographer. I told you we'd have more, and was a member of Carla and Company, Kayaba Dance Theater, choreographer collaboration project in Washington, D.C., and featured in several other projects. And as a filmmaker, she has co-produced and co-directed the documentaries Runway Afrique and No Justice, No Peas, Getting a Veggie in the Hood. She also co-produced, directed, and did the cinematography for the documentary Sunshine Chic. Dr. Egwu is currently the director of a talk show shot in Atlanta. Here in the South, Doc, we call it Hotlanta, but I know you know that already. Yeah. Dr. Egwu is also a social media enthusiast and a consultant and has fully jumped into the live streaming revolution. In addition to consulting groups like the Gary Lanham Group at Coldwell Banker and individuals on effective live stream production, she is the host of Mediascope on the streaming platforms Periscope, Instagram Live, and Facebook Live, Snapchat, and WMJSradio.com. She also co-hosts the TV channeling podcast on WJMSradio.com and major podcasting platforms. Now, do I need to repeat again that we have the privilege of sitting with a Renaissance woman who covers the spectrum as it pertains to entertainment? So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about the globalization of and specific nuances of entertainment. Now, we all know that there are so many genres of entertainment, and I know when you guys watch Mediascope, I know you watch Mediascope, right? I know you watch Mediascope, right? Yeah, guys, I'm talking to you that listen to us. I know you watch Mediascope, and we know, with the hip hop music and in my generation, everything was soulful sounds and the Temptations and the Four Tops, etc. And so, as old people, I always say I'm from the AARP crowd. Then we always claim that was real music. So I'm sure Dr. Tachi is going to straighten me out this evening as she talks to us about entertainment as a whole, being a cinematographer, dance choreographer, all those things. So listen, enough of my babbling. Dr. Tachi, welcome, and we're happy that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, listen, as you're here, I'm just going to sit quietly and listen to you as you take flight, as you share with us about the inner phase of entertainment that you want to speak of. We know that you are into a lot of things, you do a lot of projects, and please take them one by one. If any questions I have in the box, I'll share those with you as well. And we have Kente and Shannon with us. And we also want to invite them to come in and FaceTime. They have questions they want to ask you, etc. I know that Kente has already expressed he's a huge fan. Shannon and I both are huge fans. So, hey, listen, this is your floor, and I'm the janitor. I'm just going to sweep up after you're gone. So go with it.
Well, doesn't the janitor want to ask me some questions? You can ask. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, hey, first of all, what the janitor would like to know, please tell me. See, I told you I'm from the AARP group, and I'm an old guy. I would like you to share with us a modicum, because I know you can't share the whole thing, of a comparison when people say, in my generation, real music as opposed to, quote, hip hop, unquote. Is there a true difference, or do you feel that it's just a mentality that we are all that we've all adjusted to, being I represent the AARP group, as opposed to represent you sharing with us about hip hop and what is it maybe we don't understand about it?
Now, that's a really good question, to be honest. Every generation says, like you said, in my generation, we had real music. But I think there's actually something to that, because I can look back as, and not only as a hip hop aficionado, but a hip hop head growing up in New York State. Hip hop was really the music. And so looking back at that, and then looking at, for example, hip hop now, there are some marked differences. I'm not to disrespect what's happening now, but I think there is something that happened. And part of the thing that happened is, number one, people, by and large, really stopped playing instruments. So back in the day, you had actual bands, people who played actual instruments, people who could actually sing without auto-tune. You had, because the technology was not there to support a talentless individual. So you had to have the talent behind it. Now, any damn body can really get up and say, I'm a rapper, right? Because even back in the day, back in the 70s, you still had to have skill. You still had to be able to flow. You still had to, off of the top of your head, come up with some rhymes. It wasn't like now, where there are a lot of people that are writing rhymes for people, a lot of people who can flow in the studio, but when they get up on the stage, they're like, So the technology has boosted talentless individuals. And I'm not saying everybody, but we're a society that wants things quickly. We want fame quickly. We've learned that all you have to do is get up on YouTube and do a few things and somebody will take notice. So I think that's where that is coming from. So there is some merit to the back in the day we had real music things. It's not just you being, oh, that was back in my day. I think there are some real marked differences.
With that stated, don't want to get you in trouble with any of our artists out there, but as far as just pure vocals, and I want to tell you why I'm asking you this question. Having been in studios over the years, I think I mentioned to you once before, I used to manage Marcus King, who was the writer of It's Written All Over Your Face for the Rude Boys.
Yeah.
And I work with a few other guys that sing, and I'm telling you, when you go in the studio with people that can really sing, you really appreciate it. But then you're in there with these guys with these $200,000 mics and things like that, and I'm like, well, hell, I need to start me a career, because and they can't sing as well as me. But some of them are very popular. I won't call any names, but some are very popular. So can you maybe just share with us, again, I don't want to get you in trouble, but as it pertains to entertainment and vocals, because Shannon was saying, don't get her started on that topic. Shannon, feel free to jump in any time, you and or Kente. But specifically, if you had to name one artist today that at least have at least average vocals in the hip hop world, is there one that you can name in this day?
Oh, I think there are so many people who sing really, really well. I think, again, I think that we're in the YouTube age. And so there are some people with mediocre vocals that, or vocals that are not necessarily made for the type of music that they're singing, that get pushed to the front because they have a nice face or they have a nice body or whatever the case may be. That it's the entire pet. They're an entertainer as opposed to a vocalist. But I think, I really think that Ella May has a beautiful voice. Her, Her, she's got an amazing voice, just and really great songwriting skills. I'm trying to think of some male vocalists that that are hitting me now. Oh, Leon Bridges. Leon Bridges, yes. So Leon Bridges is actually, I think he's a millennial, but his style of music is a little bit older. It's a little more neo soul / soul. He is amazing. I'm in love with Leon Bridges. So who said Kente? Kente? I didn't even know you said it. Right. And, you know, Shannon mentions Beyonce, and at the risk of getting the beehive after me, but let me tell you something right now, Mr. Melvin, I really don't care about getting in trouble.
Okay.
When you said that I don't care. I'm fine. Okay. I say what I have to say. So, you know, with Beyonce, here's the thing. You know, there's Beyonce and her sister Solange. I honestly think Solange has stronger vocal skills than Beyonce. Obviously, really? Beyonce. Oh yeah, okay. Beyonce has vocal skills, but there are people that can sing flip-flops around her. She just has star power and star quality, and I think we have to be careful to label things as such. There are people that are entertainers and stars, and then there are vocalists. It's okay if you're not the greatest vocalist, you know, and she's a good vocalist. I mean, she sings really well, but she's not a Lettucey, and Lettucey has got beautiful vocals, you know what I'm saying? But she doesn't have the star power that Beyonce has. So we have to look at those as two separate entities. Whereas before it wasn't. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I love Diana Ross. Love her.
You're reading my mind.
Okay, you know what I'm about to say, right? But she was the front woman for the Supremes, when the other two had much stronger voices than she did. But it was because of relationships and how she looked. Florence. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, she's great. That's not to say that these people are not good singers, but there are other people that have stronger vocals. And in fact, there is a documentary, I believe is it on Netflix, called 20 Feet from Stardom. And it talks about the background singers for a lot of the major people. And often these background singers can sing circles around the people that they're backing up. So the idea is like you're just 20 feet away from stardom yourself. So it's a really interesting documentary if you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't. But, you know, I do wonder sometimes when you're talking with young people. And as I said, being in the AARP group, you know, everybody says, oh, well, you know, you guys are just old. You don't understand. And I'm like, no, son, I love you dearly, but find another profession because you can't sing not well enough to be a professional, you know, and it sometimes I'll be honest, it comes across negatively because you're supposed to inspire people, and I know you know this, but you still have to tell them the truth.
Absolutely. And I think you also need to know to stay in your lane. I sing, but I know that I'm not a Lettucey. I know that because my background is musical theater, that is more suited for the style of my voice. I'm not going to go up there and try and do vocal acrobatics because I know that my range in that way is limited. Plus, I didn't develop my voice in that way. I didn't train to be able to do that. So it's about staying in your lane and knowing what your lane is. Please don't fool yourself.
Absolutely. Well, you know, as we talk about vocals, I know that you have a lot of experience in the theater, and you've been behind the camera and in front of the camera. You know, being an old teacher, we always asking people about comparing and contrasting. Would you mind comparing being behind the camera as opposed to being in front of the camera, and which, if any one of them, is more fulfilling?
Wow, that's a really great question. There's power in both, right? There's fulfillment in both. And I think as a reality of this business, you need to understand and be in both. back in the day, I keep saying that people were really, okay, let me just even talk about my students, right? So I've been a college professor since 2001 at a myriad of different types of individual universities and colleges. And so I had because I'm a communication professor and in media, I had a lot of students that were majors that wanted to get in the music game, the music industry. I would bring, I had a good friend who would actually drive down from New York to Baltimore to come and speak to my class. He was like the head of college marketing for Atlantic Records at the time. So I just asked him, hey, come. Oh, of course. So he would just drive the 3 hours and come and speak to my class. And they were enamored. They loved it. In fact, some of my students actually ended up being interns, college reps for him because of that. They were enamored by the music industry. And they thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to do all of that. But I had to tell them, let me tell you something. As an artist, you have the least power of everybody in the game. So do that. Be in front of the mic, but you also need to know the business behind the mic. You also need to know about starting your own business. That you need to understand the distribution game, because the power is in distribution. You can have a record label all day long, but if nobody is distributing it, if you don't have a relationship with Target so that you have shelf space to display your product, which is, of course, this was back then, not now, because everything is digital now. So people, didn't understand that end of the game. Similarly with the camera, this is why you see so many actors. When you are an entertainer or an actor or a musician or whatever, your livelihood is only as good as your last gig. So say you're an actor, you're on a series, your series ends. You damn well better have something else lined up, or you're not going to eat. You get paid as long as you eat, as you work, right? So you need to understand that, and further, you need to understand, okay, what are the opportunities lie for me in this world? Okay, well, producing, right? Directing, all of those things. So you need to understand both below the line and above the line, which is the jobs behind the camera, behind the scenes. So for me, they're both fulfilling. I love doing both. I love directing. I think it's amazing. I love producing. I love all the behind the camera stuff. But I also know, and this is about knowing your strength, I know that I'm strong in front of the camera. I know I can act. I know that I'm relatively funny. Now, if I had to do stand-up, I'd starve. But I know that I can, I could be a funny person. So I know that's a strength as well. For me, both of them work together. And I think anybody entering this industry needs to have both.
Yeah. You know what? As you share that, I forgive me, but I always say that because I deal with young people all the time. I am of the AARP lineage. And I often wonder, not that I'm a saint by any stretch of the imagination, but as you talk about entertainment, as you talk about being in front of the camera, I notice all of the time is that there's, especially when you said if you had to be a stand-up, you'd probably starve. I'm still trying to, even though I'm of the Richard Pryor era, don't misunderstand me, and I love Eddie Murphy, etc. I'm still trying to understand why our younger comedians seem to think that every other word have to be a bleep word. I mean, help me understand that in entertainment terms.
Because I'm not a comedian, I cannot regulate someone else's funny. There are people who think, and this is something that you have to decide for yourself. If you, and this is just my opinion, again, I'm not a comedian, so I don't know the whole world very well. I happen to be very good friends with a comedian, with Coca Brown from 911. So I know her really well. And so she has been on Mediascope before, and every time, I produce in Atlanta, so obviously that's how we met. So there's really there is an art to this whole thing, and you have to study and understand and know your audience. There are some audiences where this language resonates, and there are some people whose background, evokes such language and it resonates with them. But in my opinion, I say if you can take out the expletives and it's still funny, I think you probably have a good product. I don't think you have to curse and or use raw language in order for something to be funny. But I'm sure there are times when that helps and where that puts emphasis on things. Sometimes you could get beyond it. So, for example, Cat Williams, crazy as he is, that is the most brilliant man. I mean,
Cat's funny.
He's funny, but he's also really brilliant. He talks about real life situations with the up. He's so funny and so on point that I actually use that as an example in my classes often. I'm like, if you're afraid of the language, just let me know. But, you could get somebody like him, you could get past it because of the fact that there is a message beyond it. He's funny and there's a message there. So I think it's an individual choice. You have to go with what resonates with your audience, but audiences are pretty smart. They can tell if you're just filling up your routine with words just to get a reaction as opposed to having substantive material. We're pretty smart that way.
Okay. You know what? May I digress and move backwards to hip hop? That has always been being a poet. All right. That has always been an issue for me to understand what the popularity and it's nothing that they're not saying anything. And people just, he's so great. It's like, he's not saying anything. I don't want to name specific artists, but, I'm still having difficulty and I have many conversations because, as I said, I work with young people a lot. And the anger sometimes that I see displayed within them when you ask what you would think is an educated question, say, okay, well, explain to me how a preacher's son who grew up in a 3-room home with both mom and dad, he's mid-income, etc., and he's, quote, doing what we call gangster rap. And then when you approach him, he's talking about, he's just talking about his life. But he hadn't said anything but using expletives and denigrating women and things like that. I know this topic has been going on for 100 years, but with you being an entertainer, an instructor, etc., can you enlighten us on? I mean, I know you don't know the mind of the person, but it's sales. And again, you probably just answered me earlier, but can you just share or Peter speak on that just a little bit more?
So I think, again, like you said, I'm not in the mind of the creator to understand. So a couple of things. You said it. Number one, it sells. If it sells and I can become popular that way, I'll try and conform to such, even if that's not necessarily my life. That's one end of it. Number two, it could be that this person feels that this somehow is his life and he's connected to it somehow outside of the, being the preacher's kid and all of that. There are real things that people of color, particularly African Americans, go through being people of color in this country at this time that can make it feel like you're a gangster. So it could be coming from a genuine place. We just don't know. So that could be one of two things. It could be an act. And it could, or it could be the way the person is feeling. Number three, though, I think at the end of the day, you just have to, if you are rapping, people are looking for transparency and authenticity in the artists. Not everything is gangster rap. And I think, rap and hip hop has become unfairly, and rap is actually just one aspect of hip hop. Because hip hop culture encompasses not only the music, not only the DJing, not only the beatboxing, it also encompasses graffiti and it encompasses the clothing. Those are the 5 aspects of hip hop culture. In addition to, being an aficionado, I've actually done some research, scientific research on hip hop. Okay. So, I'm coming to it from a different perspective a little bit. Not living the hip hop culture. I'm African. I didn't, grow up listening to the music and understanding that it was a new way of expression and expressing themselves in a world that said that your voice doesn't matter. I think it's tremendous and remarkable. But back to the original thing, I think it is. I think we're looking for authenticity and transparency. You have to be real. So I think audiences are also looking for a real reality as opposed to a perceived reality. So even if he sees himself as gangster, that is a perceived reality that audiences are not necessarily going to buy. But he's not the only one. how many, let's be real, if we look back, how many of these hip hop artists grew up, in, with a 2-parent household, grew up in, and they may have grown up in the Bronx or whatever, but they grew up in a house. They may not have had as much money, but they grew up in somewhat a stable environment, but they were surrounded by the type of stuff that so it could also be what he's surrounding himself with.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I appreciate you sharing that. Acting. I've always been interested in people that actually act, because I sarcastically, I think about things and people saying having split personalities and that kind of thing, and some people are so convincing when they perform. It's almost like this person can't be pretending. I mean, because it seems like a real part of them. So as an actress, actress, what do you see as has been most difficult for you in a portrayal of a character, or portraying yourself to have to react in a certain situation when you are in that mode?
That's a good question. Now, please don't think I'm a Viola Davis, okay? Let's go with that.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've actually done anything scripted, simply just because I haven't had time. I haven't auditioned. I hadn't done all these things. But I think I don't know if there's a part that's most difficult. I think what it is for me is leaving myself aside and then taking on the persona and experiences of this person. And I've had that thing that has helped with that is having really great coaches. So the first acting coach that I ever had, I took a class with. So Professor Stephen Henderson is an actor. You probably know him as, you saw the movie Fences?
Yes, I did.
He was Denzel Washington's best friend. The fair-skinned guy with the freckles. That was my professor in college.
Him. I love I did not know his name, but he's one of my favorite actors.
Yes, he's amazing. Yeah. Professor Henderson. And
that's his name, okay.
Mm-hmm, he still, he's so busy now, but he was my professor at the University of Buffalo, and he really did a lot to bring things out of me. I would do things, he said, I don't believe you. And then he would give me examples of things. And so finally, for the final thing, he said, yes, you did, beloved. I was like, oh, yes, I got it now. When he gives you that's when you know. So I was blessed and fortunate to be with him as an acting professor. Also, I took Bill Duke's acting boot camp. Yes. So I got an opportunity to learn from the great Bill Duke. So those... learning from the greats and understanding and listening to them, you just have to sit and listen and be still. Also, in terms of acting, you can learn a lot from directors, because directors are the ones who direct the action on a set, right? Or on stage. So I also had the opportunity to take a 3-day workshop with Spike Lee. And he was explaining, he was explaining a lot of things. So it's about sitting and listening to the director's vision, because at the end of the day, they're going to direct where they want you to go. Yes, it's there, but you also have to listen. So you can learn a lot from that. So I was able to leave myself aside and become a character because of coaching from individuals like that.
Okay. Well, with having sat at the feet of a Bill Dukes and a Spike Lee, when you are behind the camera, how much of an influence is that in your directing?
Spike Lee was the reason that I wanted to become a filmmaker. Point blank. Spike Lee and Julie Dash, who did Daughters of the Dust. So I took, it was actually my father who suggested, because my original thing is I wanted to be a fashion designer. That kind of stuff doesn't sit well with Nigerian parents. So my father actually said, well, you like acting and all these things. Why don't you major in mass communication? So I was like, okay, I'm not quite sure what that is, but let me look. So I got in there, and that's when I realized that it included television and film and radio and all of that. And so that's when I actually started to produce more things and get involved deeper in that world. So, yeah.
Now, earlier, Shannon mentioned that she couldn't wait for you to come
Oh, yeah.
on because she wanted to see what kind of earrings you had on today. And it just sparked something in my head when you talked about the wanting to be a fashion designer, etc. So how does that play into getting you into character, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, as you are configuring your attire, should I say?
Oh, fashion is life. Let me just say that. So I've
Okay.
always been in fashion. Actually informs a lot of what we do. Even people who think, oh, I'm not into fashion. Well, yes, you are. You bought clothes from somewhere. Somebody designed them. You are into fashion. You may not be a fashionista or fashionista, but you're
Okay.
into fashion, regardless if you like it or not. So I still am involved in fashion, very much so. So, for example, I have a T-shirt line, a hand-painted T-shirt line, which is where the artist thing comes in. So that's all still fashion. And I have a shop on Poshmark. So I'm still very much into fashion. That said, I am very much about when you are a director or you're working on a set as a PA or whatever, the basic uniform is black, right? So because you're not there to be seen, you kind of need to fade into the background. But what I always needed to do was to find, for me, clothes that were functional and still stylish. So what can I find that's black that has enough pockets that I can put my batteries and put cords and cables in it and not look like a man. No offense, but I don't want to look like a man.
No,
So that was the thing for me. That's how it informs me, that I'm looking for function and style when it comes to that.
Great. Welcome, Brother Farrell. That brings me to, I sometimes skirt very carefully around those issues that you just, because I want to talk about that as it relates to fashion, and you not want to look like a man and people get offended and all this. Help me, please. I'm pleading. Help me understand when women express the fact that, yes, I'm a woman, I'm proud, I'm feminine, I appreciate that. And when men express the fact that, yeah, I'm a man, I want to be sure you are aware of that by my dress, by my action, etc. Why do you think there's so much, quote, controversy and people not appreciating that fact simply because of the LGBT movement? I see that a lot as you in fashion. Again, I'm the AARP segment, and when I see a guy with a skirt and a suit coat and all that, man, it drives me crazy. I'll just be honest. Help me understand.
So I don't know that I can be the spokesperson for this, but I don't think this just came from the LGBTQ community. I think that, okay, so while sex is biological, I think gender is a little more fluid, and we've seen that. I don't think people are making things up when they say. I don't think so. And I think that we need to respect, whether we or not we think that. I think we need to be respectful of that. I think that for me, the way I should have said it is, I don't want to look like the way men have been socially prescribed to look. Let's say that. That's not how I necessarily want to look. Realizing for me that it's also not functional to wear a skirt to a lot of places. If I'm doing production, you can't, but it's about finding, the fit that works for you. Saying that, I don't think there's anything wrong with someone who wants to, like a woman who wants to dress a little more masculine and they're on set or whatever. That's them. What I can't do is dictate or govern other people. I can only worry about myself because I only have the faculties to worry about one person at a time, and that right now it's me. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that is a symptom, quote unquote, of the LGBTQ movement at all. I think that is something separate, and what we need not do is because then we're starting to put unnecessary labels on things. And I think, especially as Black people, we've been and people of color, we've been not wanting to be labeled for so long. I think we should not do that with other groups.
Okay. Wow, excellent answer. Because you know what, that's why I said help me, because I often wonder, even now, within the educational factor, whatever, is why everything has to be a phobia. You know, because you agree or disagree, obviously, is a personal choice, but it doesn't mean that you fear
Right.
anything. You know, and you're dealing with people and you're trying to answer questions that they're asking, especially young people that are still impressionable and trying to make decisions. So, you know, I just got, you know, wanted you to just kind of share that with us as you know, you work in so many worlds, if I can say that respectfully, you know, with hip hop, with the acting, with being behind the
Right.
camera, etc.
And well, I'm
So
sorry, with dance,
no,
with
continue.
dance, I'm completely the reason I have a lot of LGBTQ friends because of dance. You know, it's the
Yeah,
space where especially gay men have been accepted. And so you tend to, you know, just meet and know people in that space because of that. And because of that, you tend to get a different perspective on things where you find that a lot of the fears that society has about LGBTQ people are unfounded and you know, in a sense, you know, stupid, because you know they'll explain things and it's like, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. Why would you XYZ? You know, so
yeah,
it's I think it's exposure to communities. By having the exposure and sitting down and talking to people, you get a real understanding. But the average person seems to have already made up their mind about group X, whatever that group is, before they even have any
yeah.
real interactions with them. And I don't think you can have an opinion, but it will be an uninformed opinion until you actually sit down with people from whatever group you have opinions about.
Great, great. Listen, and speaking of that, again, hey, so Steph, glad you're here. I want to put you back behind the camera
Okay.
when you are when you are directing, and you know, I know a lot of times, you know, obviously the music has to be right for the
Yeah.
moment, if what you're trying to portray and all of that. Can you tell us how that kind of comes together when you are directing, you know, a certain scene and you want the audience to get drawn in by the music and anticipation? How does all of that kind of come together? I mean, I know you can't give me a full scene, but just generically.
So this is interesting. So most of my film work has been documentary as opposed to scripted. But you already kind of have a feeling of the types of music that will fit depending on what you do. So, ironically, two of the documentaries that I've done have been on fashion. So, one of them actually won Best Documentary in the Miami Fashion Film Festival. So, we knew
Wow.
that that was going to be house music, that was going to be fashion, something that you would hear in a fashion show. It's you know from the topic or the subject that you're dealing with what can work. So, which is the funny thing is it's the opposite. Usually, when I'm directing or shooting something, you know, we shoot and do everything, and then you direct, and then after the fact, all of that comes in. You know, for me. But with choreography, that's the antithesis to what I do with choreography, dance choreography. I usually hear the piece of music first and like, I know movement that can go with this. So the music
Mhm.
moves me in choreography, and I start the other way with film, meaning I shoot everything first, and then we go through and talk about what works.
Wow. So then, does that play heavily also in the selection process of those individuals that you want to include in the dance, or those individuals you want to include on the set as being playing specific roles and things of that nature? Does it the the compilation of the music and the theme that you're trying to portray? Do you guys, when you're behind that camera, are you looking for specific people with maybe specific looks or specific voice tones or just have a certain demeanor about themselves? Do these things work in sync with one another, or does it really not matter as long as the person has the talent that you're looking
I
for?
think it's a number of different things, and I think it depends on the project. So there are some projects, for example, if you're doing a period piece and it's on somebody specific, you probably want the characters to mirror those historical figures that you're trying to portray, right? In other cases, you as a writer, for example, may have an idea of what this character would look like. So, for example, you may do like a character analysis, and you're like, okay, person X, let's call him Brian, 30, tall, blonde hair, whatever. That doesn't mean that when it comes down to it, it can't be cast as somebody who is 45, short, dark curly hair. It doesn't mean that. If that's just something that the writer may have in mind. And so, but this brings up an interesting point when it comes to scripted work. This is why, there is a problem. There's a problem with diversity in terms of writing and things, like, let's say with Hollywood film, right? Not necessarily independent, but in Hollywood film. There's a problem in terms of diversity in writing, in writers' rooms, etc. Because you have people who have one mindset, okay, the tall, 30, blonde-haired person, if that's all you know and that's how you think, of course, your film is going to be staffed with only those types of people. So this is why there's this big call for more diversity in writers' rooms, more diversity above the line in general, because we're able to see more. We're able to see that just because you write the character this way doesn't mean they have to look this way. And I think you're short-sighted as a writer if you can't see your characters any other way. That's problematic. That means you lack flexibility. Your creativity is lacking somewhere if you can't see your characters in any other way, or you can't be informed by other people that, you know what, this character could be X, Y, and Z. This character, okay, so my favorite example of this, and society is guilty of pushing this forward, okay, James Bond. James Bond could be a woman, and a black woman at that. I can't wait for the supremacists. I'm just waiting. It makes me and brings me so much joy when they're angry. I love it. But who said that 007? I don't care that it's in the book that way.
So she could be Jane
exactly.
Bond, is what you're saying.
But books are fiction. Fiction.
Yeah.
You can, and then these types of films are fiction. You can staff them full of whoever you want. A great example of something that's been done for the first time. I'm a huge Whovian. I'm a Doctor Who fan. So Doctor Who, for the first time this past season, was a woman. This is the first female Doctor Who they've ever had. All sorts of people, Doctor Who will be a woman. Go sit somewhere and read a book, please. Because nobody has time for it. She killed it. She was awesome. Because it's not about gender. It's not about race. It's not about orientation. It's about what can you bring to the role that makes it come to life? How can you embody that? With the exception of something that is biographical. Sorry, you could do things anyhow. So I know I went on a tangent, but
No, you know what? I don't think you did. You just did a great job of extrapolating your point. And as we get ready to bring this to a close, again, I want to invite our colleagues to come on FaceTime, ask any question, make comments. Several of them, as you already know, are making comments on the side, and you guys feel free to grab the cameras. But Dr. Tachi, I'm really thrilled that you're here, because I'm certainly getting educated, and I'm very happy that you're sharing the things with us that you're sharing, because Dr. Vibe just popped up as well. Glad you're here, Doc. Feel free to take a camera, brother. Anybody want to take a camera, jump right on. But as you share about the characters, the controversy about the mermaid. Well, go share. I feel it, even though I'm in Louisiana and you where you are, I feel your frustration. Talk to us a little bit about that.
What I lament is that we are consistently needing to explain to people who should have the mental faculties to understand that themselves, why a fictional character can be anything. If we look back into historically in antiquity, if you want to go there, in Africa, in many countries in Africa, there were stories about mermaids, black mermaids. So the half woman, half fish thing existed in other countries and in other narratives besides European cultures and narratives. Great, you could say, okay, it's based on a book. That's fine. But if we're looking at that, we never saw who Ariel was at all in the book, if we're going by the book, which means she could have been anything. And so if we look at Little Mermaid and what's happening now, she's it's supposed to be in the Caribbean. So if you look at the Disney thing, the crab had like a terrible Jamaican accent or whatever Caribbean accent. That wasn't unfounded. That's because also in Caribbean folklore, there were stories of mermaids, etc. So people Instead of trying to solve the Flint water crisis problem, instead of putting energies in places that are useful and fruitful, these wastes of skin want to spend time battling over a fictional character. Have at it, because Disney is still making her the Little Mermaid. So you've wasted your time. I'll take some tea on that.
Kente, thank you. Kente, you want to share something right quick?
No, I think it's very funny. It's really silly. It's one of those time wasters that they put out there, and I mean, who cares really? Who cares?
Yeah.
But no, I just wanted to come on to say, I admire your work, Dr. Tachi, and of course you as well, Melvin. I was actually supposed to leave, and I decided to push back what I was going to do, so I can listen to the show. So I'm just enjoying.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm just really enjoying what you guys are doing, and I want to know, how can we get our hands on your documentaries?
Oh, no, that's a good question. So what we never did is we like never put them up. I think we're still trying to decide what we're going to do with them, because if you know anything about the film festival circuit, most film festivals don't want your films up anywhere else while they're being judged and everything. They like to be the world premiere, right? So because of that, we just never put them up, and we never decided, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to distribute them? So we've done festivals, we've done screenings. For Runway of Freak, we actually did, a screening up in New York. We've done, actually we won 2 festivals. We won the Miami Fashion Film Festival, and we won the Red Shorts, the Audience Award in the Red Shorts Film Festival. So we just never did any. So You know what? As soon as we decide how we're going to distribute them and what we're going to do, I'll let you know. They're just not up online yet.
Okay, can I ask you a question? So someone has a brilliant idea, they think, and they make let's say a documentary. They go out, they film it, they get it produced. So they actually have the product, right? They finished the film. What is your suggestion on what they should do? What's next after you finish it?
Good question. Now, this is for film, right? You're not necessarily talking about TV.
Film, yeah.
Okay, so there are a number of things that you could do. You finish the film. I would run this festival circuit, because a lot of the festivals have people from Netflix, from a lot of these independent channels, etc., looking for content for their stations, their networks, or whatever. So if you're doing the festival circuit and they happen to see your product, that could bide very well for you. So I would always, submit to the festival. And I'm not just saying the large ones like the Sundances, the Tribecas, the Torontos, etc. Look at some of the Tellurides. Look at some of these other film festivals. There are thousands of film festivals, and you can find them on filmfreeway.com. I'm sure you know about Film Freeway. So if you go on Film Freeway, they have the deadlines for all the things coming up. One thing you need to know, that this is not free. So you're going to pay at least a $25. Some are free, but most of them you're going to pay at least a $25 entry fee, and that starts to add up. So you need to have a budget for that. That's one thing. Number 2, you need to network. Who do you know that knows somebody that's at XYZ? So you need to hang around in the circles with the people who are doing these things. It amazes me that there are people who want to, have a television series or, make a movie, but they don't hang around with people who do these things. Then you're not serious. So what you need to do is start going to these industry events. Every city has events. In fact, for example, here in Miami, the Sundance Institute does these workshops and things, and they do them for free, or and some are minimal cost. So start going to these workshops, start going to conferences, start going to film festivals. So even if you don't have anything to that's ready, right there, or in production, start going to film festivals and networking with these people, because that person that you sat next to could help you in some other way. The last time I went to Sundance was in 2010. So I looked, and that was the time that digital was really starting to get big in the film industry, where they were stopping using a lot of 35 millimeter, and a lot of people were looking at digital. So they had something called the digital dive. which looked at digital's role in the movie industry. And you had to register for it, and they had a certain amount of spots. Most people probably didn't even see it. I did. I registered, and guess who I sat next to the entire time? Malcolm Lee. Spike Lee's cousin, and did the Inkwell and a whole bunch of. So I was sitting next to him the entire time, and we were just talking. Knew he was. Now, I didn't do anything in terms of pitching or whatever, but that goes to show you who you could end up being there with when you look for opportunities. So get online, look for opportunities, go to conferences, submit your stuff to these film festivals, and then finally, don't wait for people to give you permission to put your stuff out there. To hell with that. Do something with your stuff, because it's in this game, it's about a body of work. It's not just about one film. Great. You have one thing that did well. Do a lot of different shorts. My suggestion is to start out with shorts. You don't need to be ambitious and do a feature film. Start out with shorts. Put a bunch of shorts on your YouTube channel. Advertise the hell out of it. Get people involved, right? Get the people who are in your films to share it, so that you start to create a buzz. Be your own distribution company.
Right. And just one note on the film festival circuit. It is a great racket. I'm about to get in that racket, because basically what you can do is, if you're hosting the film festival, is you charge a fee for them to submit, and then you could just, all the whack stuff, you don't have to, they lose their fee. So you only keep the good stuff, and then you've collected fees from everybody. So it's a great racket, and you
called it a racket.
It really is. It's a good hustle, and but of course I'm not trying to hustle, but but no, it's cool though. It's a good way to get out, like you said, to get out and meet people and all that kind of good stuff. So.
Exactly, and don't be. I think people get discouraged. That's why I'm like a fan of also submitting to smaller film festivals in your city, etc. Specific ones. There are a lot of, for example, sci-fi film festivals. Do that, because if you get rejected by the larger ones, which often happens, it's a numbers game. And a lot of the people that get accepted, I'm like, but you already have a film. You're Scorsese. So what's happening in these larger film festivals is you're seeing submissions by people who are already well established, and it's like, but I thought this was for me. So don't get discouraged by getting rejected by from film festivals.
Right. One question, and I'll pop off.
Go right ahead.
Can you talk about networking with a purpose, as well as what you should really be doing when you go to these different events and stuff, and just any advice you have on how to properly network, and what should you be trying to get accomplished when you go to these events?
So you can't sit in the corner. Oh, well, he really popped off. You can't sit in the corner when you're trying to network. Network is really just that. You're throwing out your net and seeing how many people, your tentacles can spread out to, right? So I think that one thing, number one, go up, and even if you're uncomfortable, you need to make connections with a lot of different people there. People are having conversations at a table. Usually they have those with the stand-up tables. So you go and you get into conversation there with them. And people at these networking things are exchanging cards, etc. But when you get these cards, don't just sit on them. As soon as you can, whether it's that night or the next day, email them. Or go to whatever the case may be. That I really enjoyed meeting you. This was great. I would love to. And okay, so this is why I'm saying to have your own platform. If you have a show, if you have a live stream show, who doesn't love being on a conversation, right? Like Mr. Melvin here. So all you need to do is like, hey, I have a live stream show, or I have a podcast. I would love for you to be on it. Boom, you've got a connection, right? So you keep doing that, and people tend to keep in touch with you because of that. Just from being and producing in Atlanta, I have met tons of people, right? Just by obviously, I was a speaker on a panel, and you meet a lot of people that way, but I've gone to a lot of industry events as well. And so by asking them, hey, I do this show called Mediascope. Would you like to come on? That keeps you in the front of their mind, right? So that's one thing about having your own platform already and not waiting for your stuff to get picked up. So use that as leverage, right? And then one of my favorite live streamers, Mario Armstrong, who does the Never Settle show, he's Emmy Award winning. He always says to 3 asks, right? So you've got your big ask, you've got your tinier ask, and then you've got the tinier ask. So at 3 asks, when you're networking with people and you want to do something or you want them to do something for you, the 3 ask thing. So I think that is a phenomenal way to do that. Business cards, yes, definitely. There are all sorts of things you can do now, because I wouldn't say that business cards are obsolete. There's still a lot of people that use them, but you could go to digital business cards and, you know, stand out and be different with that by like, no, I don't have a physical card, but take out your phone, right? And that way they already know you and everything. And so a lot of times I run out of business cards so quickly that I'm like, you know, okay, I don't have time to refill them. So people, hey, do you have a card? I said, no, but I have a phone. Let's exchange. And then we text right then and there, and you have my text and my conversation right then and there. So that's a good way to do it. That's just some tips, or the way that I do it anyway.
Wow. Dr. Tachi, this has certainly been a PhD experience. And we will have to do this again. Listen, guys, if anyone else have a question that you must ask, or that you feel free to hop on right quick, because Dr. Tachi is going to be telling us how we can contact her, and we will be calling this an evening. And again, we just thank you greatly, Dr. Tachi. As you know, and I'm going to say it on air, somehow we've been missing one another. I've been wanting to have you on my show forever, and we finally got together, and I'm elated that you're here.
You.
And I repeat, this has been a PhD lesson for yours truly, and I truly appreciate you.
Thank you.
Will you please share? Yes, it's been a PhD. Listen, will you share with us how we may contact you?
Absolutely. So I'm on a number of different platforms. If you want to reach out to me on Instagram, I am Dr_Tachi at Dr_Tachi. If you want to reach out to me via Mediascope, the show that I do at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesdays on Periscope, Facebook Live, and WJMSradio.com. Go to the @Mediascope16 page on Facebook. You can reach out to me on Twitter at Tachiada, TACHIADA. Those are like the major ways that you can get into contact with me. Slide into the DMs.
Great. Well, listen, guys, we have just completed another segment of the Nobody Asked Me Guy. I'm your host, Melvin Lars, and you can reach me very easily if you were to go to my website, www.dyingonmyfeet.com. Listen, join us Wednesday, August 7th. We have none other than Mr. Adafine A.D. Williams. Mr. Adafine Williams is a 93-year-old World War II veteran. He's extremely sharp. He has a lot of information he's going to be sharing. He's a school teacher. He's an entrepreneur. He's the first African-American in a small town, Louisiana, Spring Hill, to open a business there. And all of you that are Southern University Jaguar fans, had not it been for Mr. Adafine taking on and dealing with this gauntlet, Southern University would not have received its accreditation many, many years ago. So please join us on August 7th. It's going to be at 11 o'clock a.m., I'm sorry, with Mr. Adafine. Now, if you miss us there, come and join us next Thursday. We will have returning Dr. Delene Musilak. She is a pediatrician, and she has a show called The Dr. Mom Show on YouTube. And she'll be with us talking about being a doctor, how you go about being a pediatrician and a mom. She has a book called Tripsies. So please feel free to come back and join us. Again, you can contact me at www.dyingonmyfeet.com. And for our moms out there and our dads, my latest publication is called Mothers and Their Men, an introspective look at mothers rearing their sons. And we ask a very pensive question. That question is, am I my mother's son, or am I my father's mistake? So with that, we want you guys to have a great night. Dr. Tachi, we certainly appreciate you being here, and just get ready because you're going to have to be here a lot. I'm telling you right now. So guys, have a great night. And it's been wonderful. We appreciate everybody taking the time to come and visit with us. Shannon, you're always as lovely and as helpful as ever. We appreciate that. Pat, haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're here. And guys, I always make a point, so don't get mad at me. You guys don't know how much I appreciate Dr. Vibe. He's just a phenomenal brother. And this guy, you know, he's just a phenomenal brother. And Brother Farrell, glad you're here. And can tell you, you know, we kick it all the time and we talk about our Oakland Raiders. So guys, it's been a great night. Dr. Tachi, thank you so very much for being here with us.